President Bola Tinubu recently undertook an official visit to the Republic of Turkey centered on strengthening military cooperation and expanding trade partnerships between both countries. This visit is a welcome development as it reflects a strategic alliance aimed at addressing Nigeria's myriad socio-economic challenges. Analysts have noted that the engagement holds significant promise, particularly in harnessing Turkey's technological advancement in the defense sector and deepening bilateral trade relations. Joining us on the show to discuss the importance of Tinubu's visit to Turkey is Dele, former president of the Organised private sector. He would also discuss how Turkish investors can take advantage of Nigeria's estimated $255 billion market size to expand their industrial footprint. Good morning, Mr. Oye. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Dele Oye, good morning. Happy New Year to you. First time I'm seeing you this year. And good to have you on the morning show.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, good to see you. Now, very quickly, how important is a trip to Turkey for Nigeria? Now, I ask that question against the background of the concern that, some opposition figures have argued that the president of Nigeria spent 23 days out of 31 days abroad in the month of January alone. Spokesperson of the PDP says these travels are just too much, too frequent, and that the president should sit at home and prioritize domestic policy. Same argument by the people in the ADC. But a guy like Sunday Dare, who is special advisor to the president, says, well, these trips are important, and that the trip to Turkey has been very beneficial. Now agreements were signed. How beneficial? What do we stand to gain? How does this help us? With President Tinubu saying economic diplomacy is very important.
Well, thank you very much for the question. I want to say, first of all, that I'm also the chairman of the Nigerian-Turkey Business Council. And this council was established based on the joint venture agreement between the Nigeria NASIMA, which is the National Chamber of Commerce, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, which is represented by Dele. So it's on the sidelines of that visit, apart from the official agreements that were signed by Mr. President, that we organize a business forum. And I'm happy to tell you that it is not only the official aspect that happened, there were also private businesses that were inked. What Mr. President's visit has done, we have huge security challenges and several other bilateral issues between Nigeria and Turkey. And currently, the business between Nigeria and Turkey is roughly between $1 to $2 billion officially. But I can tell you, there's hardly any home in Nigeria you don't have Turkey products. Unofficially, it's well over 10 billion. So there is need to recalibrate this relationship. And that is the reason for Mr. President's visit. The signing of those MoUs and bilateral agreements will enhance our ability as private businesses to continue to do business with Turkey. And most importantly, to give the Turkey businesses the confidence at the highest level that their government is aware of their involvement in Nigeria. Currently, we have several investments, about 44 well-established Turkey businesses in Nigeria, and are doing very well in several sectors. One of the largest investments in Nigeria is the Hyatt investment in Ogun State, which is a $200 million investment. The Turkey has also successfully, businesses, construction companies, have done businesses of over almost $2.1 billion in Nigeria in terms of providing construction, investment in several sectors. So it is important for Mr. President to visit, to give a further fillip to all these relationships. And I can tell you, at the business forum, we had led by our own Honorable Minister of State Industry, and also we also had we did in collaboration with the Nigerian Investment Promotion Agency, and also the Honorable Minister for Finance, who came in to give further assurance, Minister of Finance, to the Turkey businesses. And there were 33 of them that came in officially, led by their own Minister of Industry. And I can tell you, my counterpart on the other side has a $200 million investment in Nigeria. who is the chairman of the Turkey Nigerian Business Forum. So what we are saying in a nutshell, it's not a political visit. Although there were issues of security and others that were signed, government does not do business. So if you look at the agreement to use as an assessment of the trip, you'll be making a huge mistake. The real intent of the whole is to bring the private sector in Nigeria with the private sector in Turkey. And that was fully achieved. And you can see the photographs and all the people. And this is the first time I've gone out of Nigeria on a business trip where you see in the hall, you have industrialists, not traders, in the room willing to do business in Nigeria.
That's really
so it's a
great
huge
to
success
hear.
for Nigeria.
Well, that's really great to hear, Mr. Oye. Now, one of the things that have come out is that when it comes to trade with Nigeria and other countries, we usually come up short, especially when we sign these MoUs, and where the country is able to maximize the terms of the MoUs, Nigeria is not able to based on certain factors within the country. For instance, Turkey, as you mentioned, has established businesses here, and they trade quite well in Nigeria. And usually it's finished product, furniture. We have a significant portion of our fabric that women wear, and men actually, the Turkey fabric. But what we export, on the other hand, are raw materials. We don't particularly export a lot of finished products. How do we hope to change this? What are some of the things that must be put in place so that we come to the table on equal footing, where they bring to us finished goods, we also send to them finished goods. On the other side of it is that when the British Prime Minister visited China, one of the things he came out with was a visa-free arrangement for movement of people and even potentially better engagement business-wise from Britain to China. Nigeria still has restrictions to visiting Turkey. Was that resolved during this visit? Was that discussed during this visit?
Well, first of all, I'm not aware of any restriction by Nigeria to Turkey. In fact, on this visit, the embassy was open on Sunday to issue visas. And I can tell you that there's no restriction of Nigerian visas, unless you don't have serious business to do there. On the issue of the nature of business, whether Nigeria is benefiting
only
from
recently, Mr. Oye, sorry, you would get an easy access. You are going the unofficial business. What I mean is that even for tourist visas, the visa I'm talking about is not just business visas. Only a few years back, Turkey changed the terms of their visa application from getting an online visa, e-visa, to now having to apply and making the process a bit more tedious. It's just the free movement of goods and people between countries. That's what I'm asking. Was that brought to the table? Is that a concern for you in terms of the organized private sector or industries in Nigeria and people in Nigeria at large?
I think about a year and a half ago, I had raised this issue and addressed on it. We're working with TOB, which is their own national chamber of commerce, to see how we could resolve it. It's very unfortunate it's not yet resolved on the issue of the e-visa. And that is even why Nigeria today too does not extend e-visa to Turkey citizens. They have to also go to our embassy. But we are working very hard with this level of cooperation and the agreement signed. I think that issue will be resolved. Coming back to business, I want to tell you that it's not only, even in that room, I had a Nigerian business who is building vehicles in Turkey, ambulances, and trying to also establish the same factory here in Nigeria. A Nigerian company. Was from my delegation, who is already invested in Turkey. There are several investments also by Nigerian business in Turkey. Coming back to Nigeria, Turkey is involved in power. They're involved in a lot of manufacturing in Nigeria. And like you said, they have a lot of furniture companies based in Kaduna and several places. I can give you names and locations. So it's not that maybe the business is not completely beneficial. I don't support any company coming to Nigeria to buy and sell. If you call me on that, I will not listen. We are looking for a situation. Turkey has a huge industrial base, and Nigeria represents a gateway under the African Continental Free Trade to 1.3 billion market. So what we are telling them is, if you bet on Nigeria, you have an opportunity to have access to the African market, and they are listening. So the visit has cleared all the hurdles that required me to convince them to come. Okay. They know at the highest level our government is ready to support business.
Okay, Mr. Dele, you said Turkish trade to Nigeria is over $1 billion officially. But unofficially is about 10 billion. That's the money Turkey take out of our economy. How much do we, Nigerians, take out of the Turkish economy? Nigerian trade to Turkey, value-added products to Turkey. How much do we take out of Turkey and bring back to Nigeria?
I think when I say Turkish trade is 10 billion, it does not mean it's a one-way. You have to put a combination. I also agree that current balance of trade, because of their level of industrial output, is not in favor of Nigeria. But our ability
involves everything. So what's the balance? Out of the 1 billion, how much does Turkey take? How much does Nigeria take?
That is where I'm explaining. It's very difficult for you to put a figure on it. The reason is because most of our businesses, I have the data we have are not reliable. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
If a product leaves Turkey today, most big industries, they don't have the capacity to meet global requirements for NAFDAC, SUNCAP, and whatever. They go through transshipment to trade countries. They go through Dubai. That good is not treated as a good from Turkey anymore. It's treated as goods from Dubai. We are working hard with the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Turkey and DEIC to see how we can bring these informal transactions. There are a whole lot of Nigerians building hotels and various resorts in Turkey. These are not captured in this business. So Nigerians are also moving a whole lot out of Turkey into Nigeria. I gave you an example of this gentleman building ambulances in Turkey and also establishing the same industry in Ogun State. So most of these things are not in our official records. So it's difficult to completely say that the business is not beneficial.
With due respect,
yes, sir.
If you can't have all of these facts, then there's no basis for business where you can't track what is going on. In all of this, you have just been able to talk about one man building ambulance, then you said, okay, people building hotels. But if we have a figure, for instance, that's when we'll be able to know, okay, this is what we are doing also to the Turkish economy. Because that fact is really important. And secondly, if you say, okay, we are transshipping through Dubai and everything, when are we going to be able to do the formalization that goods will come directly from Turkey, it will go through SUNCAP and all the other people you mentioned here, and it will go here so we can record it. But it's very sad that after many years, we don't even have concrete data of balance of trade and intertrade, what comes to Nigeria, what comes to Turkey. That's a big indictment on us. So what's the matrix to be able to measure success if we don't have data? All you are just saying is data.
I've already informed you. By the very nature of our people, it's difficult to completely say this data is 100%. And I don't want to give you data that are not close to that. But I can give you examples of several investments. Take, for example, the Turkey have done enough construction in Nigeria, construction companies of about $2.8 billion already confirmed of business have been done. There's also a Turkey business that has done about $22 million investment in Jigawa, Niger, Kano states in various value chain. There are Turkey businesses involved in aviation, defense, and several others. So what I'm saying all this is, difficult for you to give an exact figure.
Sorry, Mr. Oye. Can you reel out Nigeria Business Institute that has done this $1 billion, that $1 billion out of Turkey? Can you give me those numbers? So like you gave me $22 million, $2.28 billion and everything. Can you give me the same Nigerians that have gone to Turkey and have done business of that amount, that taking money out of that economy back to Nigeria? Can you give me the numbers too, like you've given me the one from Turkey?
The reason is by the very nature of our people. You know, when they have investments, they don't. I can give you an example. One of my members is running an airline in Albania using Turkish management.
Okay.
And
Dele.
This member would not want his name mentioned because he's running a commercial airline in Albania, but using Turkish management. Let me just round. What I'm trying to say, sir, is what we have to offer them is that currently the government policy on processing of agri-produce, solid minerals, Turkey has the industrial base we can use to optimize. Nobody's coming here to give you anything for free. You have to have a value chain to offer. I agree that the balance of trade is not yet in our favor, but we don't have to wait. We have to continue to work on it. Take, for example, now there's no direct shipping between Nigeria and Istanbul. So it's difficult. So these trade rules are being developed, and these are some of the reasons why Mr. President went to sign these bilateral agreements so that people can have more confidence to invest. Our main work is to use the Turkish industrial base with our raw materials, which we export LNG, we export several other things to Turkey, but then we need to increase it, and that is what this visit does for us. Okay. And I can assure you a lot of delegations coming, and they are ready to do more in Nigeria. I will give you the figures for Nigerians if I have the permission of the companies, because most of them don't want attention to them yet, because they don't want, I mean, I know how it is.
Okay, Dele, you are not new to this business. You've been in charge of World Trade Center and all of that, and now you are head of the Nigeria Turkey Business Council. So I'm surprised that you can't provide us with basic data. For example, it's been reported that Turkey has about 50 businesses in Nigeria, in the hospitality sector, in the health sector, in the manufacturing sector, in the road construction sector, up to 50 companies. As president of the Nigeria Turkey Business Council, you should at least have an idea of how many Nigerian businesses are also in Turkey. Just basic, off the cuff kind of thing. I say, we have so many companies, and then maybe you mention 3 or 4 of them. That's one. 2, what is the guarantee that Turkey, with this 5 billion, trade volume, investment volume that they are promising, they are not going to come to Nigeria just to come and collect contracts? Because many of these countries that we sign all kinds of agreements with, they just come here, they take contracts. And we don't have the capacity to operate in their own environment. Can you give me at least 2 sectors in terms of trade where Nigeria has an advantage? You, as the president of the Nigeria Turkey Business Council, 1 or 2 areas where you think we have a comparative advantage, with evidence, of course. That should not be too difficult for the president of the Nigeria Turkey Business Council.
No, first of all, coming on data for Nigerians, we have over 20 Nigerian companies registered with the council that are operating in Turkey. And this is just a very little number compared to the several persons that we know that are operating there.
Like who and who?
Coming
Just
to
mention.
the comparative, like I've told you,
they don't hide their own companies. They have Turkish eye specialist hospital. They have Turkish airlines. They have schools. They have manufacturing agencies. You should be able to mention at least 2 or 3 members of your council from the Nigerian side.
I've told you that there is hospitality there. They have hotels.
What's the name
They
of
don't
the
have names.
What's the name of the hotel?
The ambulance.
What's the name of the hotel?
I will provide that when I have their permission. I don't, I don't.
It's free advert, so we're even giving them free platform.
You are
free publicity.
coming back to the issue of comparative advantage. There's a huge synergy. There's a huge synergy. There's a huge synergy, Mr. Rufai. I'll give it to you outside the program. So I know you want to use it for. Coming back to the comparative advantage, Nigeria is huge in oil and gas, which is something that we can leverage Turkey technology. And I'm aware, there's one of my members who is already using Turkey industrial capacity to build an LNG plant in Nigeria. Then secondly again, then we also have advantage in several agricultural products. No, that is not contract. There's a lot of industry, when you come to invest or to provide services, there's a lot of technology transfer. In some countries, they rather sell you the machine, but these people are ready to sit down with us and build with us. That is a major importance. So it's not contract, please. I think the impression created that Turkey are only here to do contract is not true. There are very few countries that are doing business with us at 100%. And Turkey is one of them. There is no restriction on transfer of technology. In some countries, they rather have you buy the equipment and install. Even in our defense industry, you will find out that the last helicopters that were sold to Nigeria, they are being flown by Nigerians.
No,
but you still see private airlines here in Nigeria being flown by...
Attack, what they call attack. They want to sell to Nigeria contracts.
No, what I'm saying is, not only are they bringing the goods, they also transfer the technology associated. You fly in commercial airlines in Nigeria, you see white men still flying them. But it's not like that in the different industry in Nigeria. So what that tells you, the government at that level has said, give them everything they need at 100%. And that is the main reason for Mr. President's visits, to further enable this relationship. So we have comparative advantages. Those who have a huge industrial base, we have market access we can provide them in Africa. Then most importantly, we have a lot of our processing plants which they can invest in and take advantage of these opportunities. So it's not a situation of sympathy. Business is not done on sentiments. You have to have a synergy. If Turkey does not see something in Nigeria, they will not ask our president to come. Our president went there on invitation. Okay. He didn't just walk in there.
Dele, just before you go, very briefly, we're almost running out of time. You were in Turkey. You know the system on both sides. What would you say are the key lessons Nigeria can learn or has learned in the course of this latest trip from the example of Turkey, which is a major manufacturing hub, a global powerhouse, despite Recep Erdogan's human rights issues? What did you see? Even if it is on the tourism side, what lessons can we learn? No, there's a major lesson. First of all, the major lesson we must learn is that Turkey has an institutional framework for dealing with foreign direct investment. It is controlled from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And there's a department called Dele. And I represent Dele in Nigeria. That is on the business side. So every agreement we've all signed, even most of the official agreements are signed, you'll be surprised to know that most of these things, their due diligence, they involve us. So what I'm trying to say, Nigeria has a duty to institutionalize the way it does foreign trade and businesses, so that we can capture and be able to determine whether it is beneficial or not. And I encourage all the ministries and agencies and private entities who are trying to do business there to make sure they take advantage of this institutional framework, so that the agreement will be beyond cycles of office. Secondly, and more importantly, they must ensure that they have bilateral ADR provision in all the agreements. Turkish are very strong businessmen. They operate in several countries, and they are very exposed to international agreements. So it's important you put ADR clauses in your agreements, because it's very expensive to litigate in Turkey. Right. And very importantly, also provide mediation platforms, which will give institutions like Dele and Nigeria-Turkey Business Council to provide support, institutional support, so that we are able to give you the due diligence and ability to know whether you are dealing with a first-rated company in Turkey or not. There are several industries in Turkey. So if you are approaching them, what capacity to approach, at what price? Most of these industries don't have time to market all over the world. They have agents, and which comes at over 20% the cost. So it's important to use the existing framework provided by Dele and Nigerian Turkish Business Council, so that our Nigerians can get these products at a good price, at the best technology available in Turkey, and most importantly, to be able to have a sustained relationship, so that they don't get shortchanged in the deals.
Okay,
so these are some of the lessons. Then secondly, I must mention the way Turkey refers to their leader Ataturk. If you go there, you have a reason, if you're a public leader, to work for your people. And if you see the way they revere this is their past leader, I think it's a good example Nigerian can learn from, so that it's not about what you get for yourself in public office, but you're able to do the right thing for your people. And I want to thank our official partners in this trip, the NIPC, the Ministry of Industry, Minister of Industry, Minister of State for Industry, and Minister of Finance, for the support they provided. They were really there for Nigeria, and they gave assurances to these businesses that their businesses are safe in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, even from your statement, Mr. Oye, there's a lot of focus on the businesses coming to Nigeria, assurances given by the Nigerian side about, oh, bring your business here. But Nigerians also want to do business to their counterparts abroad. And this takes me back again to the question I asked you initially. What are some of the specific areas, since you were on ground, that present an opportunity for the private sector, for industries in Nigeria to actually tap into with regards to businesses, trade between Nigeria and Turkey? For instance, even SMEs, which is the lifeblood of this nation, many of them want to trade internationally. What are some specific opportunities for Nigerians? Nigerian businesses, number one. And then number two, what are some provisions by this government to provide an enabling environment for these businesses to trade seamlessly, at least to a very large extent, to their counterparts in Turkey? That's what we want to hear. Good for the Turkey, for them to come here and invest. But we also want to be a part of that. We want to get a part of that. So let's hear that.
I think I can tell you that Turkey is the biggest consumer of our sesame seeds. And even just at the airport here, I have one of my members who can process 2 containers daily. There are huge agro-products and agro-processing going on in Nigeria, with Turkey as a final destination. So apart from that, there's also huge opportunity on the issue of tourism. Nigeria has a compelling story to tell, both in our fashion, in Afrobeat, and several other industries.
Bringing furniture to us. Afrobeat is nice, so Afrobeat goes all over the world. But they're bringing furniture. They are coming to get a lot of money. And you're talking about. I can show you my member. I can show you my member here in Turkey company manufactures some furniture also in Kaduna. So it's not everything that is brought as finished products. There are some huge industrialization going on. And a lot of people in Nigeria, they prefer to be quiet about their efforts until they reach the project launch stage. I've given you an example. They are providing huge support for us, especially on the issue of industrialization, small SMEs and also medium ones. So there are many companies using Turkey technology to advance production here in Nigeria. So it's not a contract-based relationship. I would not support dumping of goods or anything. And Turkey, very importantly, represents European standard as a lesser price. Okay.
That's the main selling point why Nigeria must embrace Turkey technology to do business in Nigeria. Oh. And when they come to invest, they also provide employment.
Okay.
So it's not a one-way traffic.
Yeah,
we are not at the same pace,
correct,
but
yes.
at least
that in terms of investments, bringing up. Just one last thought on that.
And
How do we protect?
I must mention Osimhen. Everybody in Turkey worships Osimhen, and in fact, they try to make you tell you, are you related or whatever. So Nigeria has a huge goodwill in Turkey, which we can use to expand trade and opportunity. And Mr. President's visit has opened that channel.
That's fantastic.
And that is why the visit is not just like any other one.
Yes.
So that's why I said you are going to see a whole lot of industries coming down, and I will be providing report. And I will also take Mr. Rufai's challenge and provide him the hotel addresses in case he decides to visit Turkey.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask very quickly because you keep Mr. Oye, just in a sentence, you talk about investment and that's great. How do we protect the Nigerian interests? Because sometimes when these companies come to invest, they take advantage of our people. So how do we ensure that the Nigerians also get the best end of the bargain? One sentence.
Nigerians should learn to use the institutional framework provided to do business anywhere they are doing, including the public sector. You cannot know it all. You need to do due diligence. And most importantly, make sure you have good lawyers before you sign anything. It's very important in Turkey.
All right.
So that we don't get the wrong end of the business.
Well, thank you.
And we're ready to provide our support.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oye. Thank you for bringing us the information. We've had quite a robust conversation around opportunities between Nigeria and Turkey, and hopefully we'll maximize that investment opportunity. Thank you.